Now, we don't have time today for me to do a step-by-step and walk you through this entire process manually. So you're going to have to think in Photoshop, maybe take some notes would be a good idea, or continually refer back to this video as you try to work through this process. This image is straight out of the iPhone, okay? Look, 3200 by 2400, and change. At 72 pixels per inch, 22 megabyte file, okay? Remember this size, just 3000 by 2000 at 72. What we're trying to achieve, if I jump over to this one and open up the image size dialog box, image size, option command I, excuse me, 6000 by 6000 pixels at 300 pixels per inch. Now, why 300? This is a print resolution for commercial printers. And oddly enough, most textures are shipped out in RGB. We're trying to meet the market where it is. So we're trying to work in the same manner that the other professionals are using. Okay, and you notice this is 100 megabytes. This file, depending upon the texture, can get up in the 700 megabyte range. But this is the preview of what we're doing. I'm going to hit cancel. Notice that there's a lot of smart objects and smart filters going on. So how are these applied? Now, after I did about, 8 to 10 of these, I started noticing there were similarities. And so I made actions. The actions I made, this 6K blur, 6,000 pixel blur, is they're set up into little subgroups. The first layer is where I tweak the image in Camera Raw. Now I'm just going to show you this quickly so you can understand what these steps mean. I went ahead, Shift Option Command N for a new layer. Shift Option Command E for merge everything visible. And then right-clicked on that layer, converted it to a smart object. That's what's happening right here. Then Camera Raw Filter. Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Now do you see how these are beginning to work? And if I click on the Camera Raw Filter, up pops this dialog box where I have a chance to up the vibrance, change the shadows, change the whites, move the contrast. I can do all this stuff. I can add kind of a custom curve here that's more complicated and more sophisticated than in Photoshop. I can sharpen this object, but we're going to be blurring it, so sharpening doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Although with some images I found some tricks. And then this fourth one, the HSL grayscale, this is hugely important. Ignore hue, saturation, move straight to luminance. What if I want to affect the red and not, what if I want to affect this shirt and not this shirt, or vice versa? Well, for this one, look at the color. What's it look like? Does it look like aqua? Does that make it lighter and darker? Do you see the red changing? Look at the red. If I come up here, I can make it lighter or darker. So there's all kinds of things I could do here. However, if I play this, I'm going to throw this layer away, and then I'm going to play this layer out. And notice how this brightened up. If I turn this off, it brightened up. These colors did not change. That's because this is the default action. Once I apply this, because I've created this action, I can double click on the Camera Raw filter, make any adjustments I want. Let's say adjusting that teal, right? Make it a little darker, see? And if I accepted that, this would be an adjustment. Now, back here, don't make the mistake of saying, oh, I'm going to write down these numbers. These numbers applied to a different image. Making this look as vibrant as possible, not crazy, not this. This is not what we want. You need to have a discerning eye, like it says in the quest. You want color, but you don't want hideous color. Okay, so I'm going to hit cancel. That's the first step where you tune in your image. The second step is the upsample. It's going to involve the same thing, but at the end of the upsample, there's going to be a Gaussian blur applied. And if we open that up, you can see the Gaussian blur is 750 pixels. The 750 pixels is not a magic number. It's an approximation of what works for a lot of images. You need to tweak it depending upon what image you have. So if you're working on your own, you're going to be, remember I told you either got to play this over or you have to take some notes. I told you what we're doing. I told you what size we're going to. So if I play this layer, I'm going to get a 6,000 by 6,000 pixel image that's converted to a smart object at 300 pixels per inch, and then a Gaussian blur is going to be applied. And that Gaussian blur, I can adjust it here. But I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm going to hit Command 0 so I can see the entire blur. I will tell you right now, these blurs are not beautiful if there is banding, if you have stripes coming across. And that's why I have a couple other steps. Now, as you're working through this, you're going to have to take some time to understand what the heck is light grain and why did I do it? And is it necessary on every single image? Now, the answer to that is every image is different. So if I play this out, and I don't know in the video if you can see this banding here, but what this is going to do is it's going to change the essence of this texture, the color, and it's going to add a little grain, and it's going to soften up these lines. However, now we still have a little banding. And again, I don't know if you can see it. If I hit Command 1 to go to actual size, and then I have the navigator open. Window Navigator is how this is open. And there's a little red square here that I can move down and say, I want to look right here. And in this, I can see the banding here. This is terrible. This makes this image useless. So after the light grain, and I should show you, I'll try to remember to double click this camera raw filter so I can show you how that was applied. Look at, we're doing the same thing, and then I'm applying a motion blur. Okay, so what is going on here to get rid of this banding, or at least to attempt to? So we go up here and try to blur the banding with a default action. And it went away. I don't know what you're seeing on the video. If you're seeing lines, they're not here. This blur, this motion blur, is pretty subtle. I've found that, sometimes at 50 works, sometimes, you need to go to 100. Sometimes you got to change the angle in order to apply this blur across whatever banding you have. I'm going to click OK because that actually does help it out a little bit. And I've already gone around this image, so I know there's no banding anywhere else using these settings. All right, before I forget, I'm going to go back to this light grain right now and show you in Camera Raw. If I double click that filter, look, nothing changed here except I bumped the vibrance up a little bit. That's by default. You don't need to do that. You can pull that back down. But then what changed? Nothing. Nothing. Where is this happening? Grain under FX. Notice just 10, 10, 10, and the dehaze at -10. That's it. This post-crop vignette, quite honestly, I don't remember doing this. But here's where you can adjust this and fine tune that. I'm going to hit cancel. And you need to do that, of course, before this layer because this layer is opaque and it's using these settings. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. Up into the next step is the 3D lookup table. Now, the lookup tables are right here, and they're incredible, but they're an incredible pain to work through manually, to click on one and then, how does that do? And is that good or bad? And then click on another one, and then you have to try to remember. So I'm going to throw this layer away, and I made an action called 3D lookup table, and if I play it, it's going to create a folder. Inside this folder is every single one of those lookup tables. Yes, this took quite a while for me to make. And then I can go through selectively, if I hit Command 0 so I can see what I'm doing, turn that off. There's our blur, and you can go through. I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can check and see what improves this, what makes it worse, and what combination could possibly help make it look better. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it's unnecessary. Sometimes you end up getting 3 or 4 different blurs out of one image. So, very quickly again, if I wanted to make a new layer set, I'd click on that folder and name this set. I'm just going to name it Toss. And then, if I wanted to create an action inside there, I'd create a new action and name it something. Action 672. Oh, how wonderful. And then Photoshop is going to record whatever I do. You get it? And then when I'm done, I would click on this to stop recording. And then you can edit actions and you can add to actions and you can do all kinds of stuff. But actions are your friend. You really want to learn how to speed up your workflow. Working smart, not just clicking through and thinking everything's perfect, because every image is different. I've tried to stress that all year long. You have to be nimble and you have to have a good eye. So I'll go into more detail depending upon feedback I get from this. Like I said, replay it, take notes, look at what's sitting here. These are your clues. What's going on? Get it? And no, I'm not going to give you this action set because I don't think it would help you. I want you to learn how to do these steps, and then you can make your own actions.